The stars above Kepler 442 had witnessed 300 years of silence. 300 years since the Veltar arrived with their crystal ships that gleamed like captured starlight. 300 years since they declared themselves gods to the trembling worlds below. High Veltar Zefthon stood on the bridge of his temple ship, Divine Ascendant. His tall figure cast long shadows across the crystalline floor. The ship itself was a marvel of alien engineering. Towers of living crystal grew from its hull like frozen lightning. Energy flowed through transparent veins that pulsed with divine light. Or so the conquered worlds believed. My Lord Subcommander Noxvian approached with measured steps. His voice carried the reverence of centuries of worship. The mining station has been secured. The humans kneel before your divine presence. Zefthon nodded slowly. His 6 eyes gazed out at the small human outpost floating in the void. The metal structure looked pathetic compared to his magnificent vessel. These humans were like all the others, weak, primitive, ready to bow before superior beings. They learn quickly, Zefthon said. His voice resonated through the bridge like distant thunder, as all mortals must when faced with true divinity. The human mining station Prosperity hung damaged in space. Its hull bore the scorch marks of Veltar weapons. Inside the station, 43 humans huddled in the main chamber. Their faces showed the same terror Zefthon had seen on countless worlds, the same awe, the same desperate need to believe in something greater than themselves. Station Commander Roberts stepped forward on shaking legs. We understand now. You are gods. We submit to your divine will. The holographic image of Zefthon towered above the frightened humans. His crystalline armor caught the light of their dying power systems. Good. You will send word to your people. Tell them the eternal divine has come. Tell them to prepare offerings worthy of gods. But something was different about these humans. Even as they knelt, their eyes moved. They watched. They studied. One young engineer named Davis kept glancing at the energy readings on his damaged console. Another human, a woman called Martinez, quietly recorded everything with her personal device. This behavior puzzled Noxvian. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever shown such curiosity during their first divine encounter. They usually cowered completely or fainted from overwhelming awe. Shall we destroy their communication? Array, my lord, Noxvian asked. To prevent them from warning their military, Zefthon laughed. The sound echoed through both ships like breaking glass. Let them warn whoever they wish. What can mortals do against gods? Let their greatest warriors come. Let them see the futility of resistance. Far beyond the outer planets, the human warship used Dauntless moved through space with deadly purpose. Captain Lee Minho stood on his bridge watching the stars. His ship was not beautiful like the Veltar vessels. It was practical, efficient, built for war rather than worship. Captain Lieutenant Kim Taeyong called from his station. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Prosperity mining station. Audio and visual. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life. Commander Roberts appeared, his face pale and drawn. Behind him, the other survivors huddled together. This is Commander Roberts of Mining Station Prosperity. We have made contact with an alien species. They call themselves gods. They demand humanity's immediate surrender. Minho studied the transmission carefully. His dark eyes missed nothing. Are they holding you prisoner, Commander? No, sir. They let us send this message. They want us to tell you that resistance is futile, that you should prepare offerings for the eternal divine. Show me these aliens, Commander. The camera turned to reveal the holographic form of Zefthon. The alien's imposing figure filled the screen. His voice boomed across space itself. Humans of Earth and all your scattered colonies. I am Zefthon, the eternal divine. For 300 years, 100 species have knelt before my power. Now it is your turn. Commander Park Haijin, the tactical officer, leaned forward in her chair. Her trained eye analyzed every detail of the alien's appearance and technology. Impressive holographic projection, Captain. Advanced energy manipulation, but notice the pattern in the crystal formations behind him. What about it? Minho asked. They follow standard physics principles. Advanced, yes, but not impossible to understand. The alien continued his proclamation. You will gather your finest treasures, your most beautiful creations, your strongest warriors. All will be offered to appease the divine wrath. Those who submit will be allowed to serve. Those who resist will be consumed by holy fire. Dr. Choi Yuna, the chief science officer, worked quietly at her station during the transmission. Her instruments detected and analyzed every energy signature coming from the alien vessel. What she found was fascinating. "Captain," she whispered, "I'm detecting massive energy expenditure just to maintain that holographic projection. Either they're showing off, or they need to work very hard to appear this impressive." Minho nodded slightly. His expression remained calm, but his mind was already working. In his 20 years of military service, he had learned to spot bullies and tyrants. The Zephthon had all the classic signs: the dramatic presentation, the demands for submission without negotiation, the assumption that overwhelming display equals actual power. "You have one solar rotation to prepare your offerings," Zephthon announced. "I will return with my divine fleet. Your choice is simple: kneel and live as servants, or stand and die as fools." The transmission ended. The bridge of the Dauntless fell silent for a long moment. "Orders, Captain?" Park asked. Minho stood up from his command chair. His voice was steady and calm. "Set course for the Prosperity Station. Maximum burn, and send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention." "What kind of situation, sir?" "The kind where someone needs to learn the difference between being a god and just having good special effects." As the Dauntless turned toward the mining station, its weapons systems began their automated checks. The ship's AI ran battle simulations. The crew prepared for what might be humanity's first real test among the stars in the void between worlds. Two very different philosophies were about to collide. On one side stood beings who had ruled through fear and spectacle for 3 centuries. On the other side moved a species that had never learned to kneel. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the galaxy. The gods were about to meet mortals who refused to believe in divine right and in the depths of space. The first cracks appeared in an empire built on lies. The EU's Dauntless arrived at the Prosperity mining station 18 hours after receiving the distress call. Captain Lee Min-ho watched through the viewport as his ship approached the damaged structure. Scorch marks covered the station's hull. Like dark fingers, several sections showed signs of advanced energy weapon damage. "Docking clamps engaged," Captain Lieutenant Kim Tae-young reported. "The station's life support is stable, but their main power grid is operating at 30%. "Good, Commander Park. You're with me, Dr. Choi. Bring your full analysis kit. I want to know everything about these aliens and their technology." The airlock hissed open, and Minho stepped aboard the mining station. The corridors were dimly lit and filled with the nervous energy of survivors. Commander Roberts met them at the entrance. His face showed the strain of the past day. "Captain Minho, thank you for coming. We weren't sure anyone would believe our report." "I believe it, Commander. But I need details. Everything you saw, heard, and recorded." Roberts led them to the main operations center where the other survivors waited. Dr. Choi Yuna immediately began scanning the area with her instruments. Her readings showed residual energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. The alien ship appeared without warning. Roberts began. "No engine signatures, no heat bloom, nothing. One moment empty space, the next moment this massive crystal vessel was right on top of us." Engineer Davis stepped forward. "Captain, I managed to get some readings during their attack. Their weapons don't operate on any principles we understand. The energy output was enormous, but the actual damage was precise. Almost like they were showing off, rather than trying to destroy us." Double quotes. Dr. Choi looked up from her scanner. "Davis is right. These energy readings suggest massive power expenditure for relatively limited destruction. If they wanted to destroy this station completely, they could have done it in seconds. Instead, they took their time," Martinez added, "made a big show of it. Lots of light and sound, but carefully controlled damage." Commander Park studied the tactical data on her portable display. "Captain, this doesn't match any known military doctrine. Their approach was designed for psychological impact, not tactical efficiency." Minho nodded thoughtfully. "What happened after they disabled your defenses?" "That's when things got strange," Roberts said. "Their leader, this Zephthon, appeared as a hologram, 12 feet tall, glowing armor, voice like thunder. He kept calling himself the Eternal Divine. But he didn't act like any god I've ever heard of, Davis interrupted. He was angry when we asked questions. Real gods wouldn't get frustrated by curious mortals, would they? Dr. Choi's scanner beeped urgently. Captain, I'm detecting trace elements embedded in the station's hull. The composition is fascinating. Advanced metallurgy, but based on principles we can understand and potentially replicate. Meaning they're not using magic or divine power. They're using very advanced technology that follows natural laws. Minho felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. Commander Roberts, how long did their leader speak to you? Nearly an hour. He seemed to enjoy the sound of his own voice, made grand proclamations about divine will and mortal submission. Very theatrical. Did he mention other species they've conquered? Yes, sir. He claimed to have ruled over 100 worlds for 3 centuries. Said they all knelt before his divine presence. Park frowned. 300 years of conquest, but they're still using the same intimidation tactics. That suggests they haven't faced real military opposition in a long time. Suddenly, Kim's voice crackled over the comm system. Captain, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting an approaching vessel. Same energy signature as the one that attacked the mining station. How long until it arrives? 12 minutes, sir. Minho made a quick decision. All non-essential personnel return to the Dauntless immediately. Dr. Choi, gather your samples and data. We're going to meet these gods properly. As the crew prepared to leave, old Martinez grabbed Minho's arm. Captain, that thing is 3 times the size of your ship. You can't fight a god. Minho looked at the frightened woman with calm eyes. Ma'am, I've been in the military for 20 years. I've learned that anyone who has to tell you they're a god probably isn't one. Back aboard the Dauntless, the crew prepared for their first encounter with the Veltar Dr. Choi. Worked frantically to analyze the data from the mining station. Her findings were encouraging. The energy signatures suggest they're using a form of controlled plasma manipulation. Advanced, yes, but it has limitations. What kind of limitations? Heat, buildup, power consumption, and focusing problems over long distances. Their weapons are designed for close-range intimidation, not long-range combat. Lieutenant Kim's voice interrupted from the bridge. Captain, the alien vessel is dropping out of hyperspace. It's huge, sir. Minho and his senior staff hurried to the bridge. The main screen showed the approaching Veltar ship in all its crystalline glory. The vessel looked like a living cathedral made of translucent stone and flowing energy. Magnificent, Park admitted, but notice the energy distribution. Most of it is going to maintaining that impressive appearance. Incoming transmission, Kim reported. The bridge filled with the imposing presence of Subcommander Noxvian. His voice carried the same theatrical quality as his leader. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. The Eternal Divine has claimed this system. Your resistance is meaningless. This is Captain Lee Minho of the UES Dauntless. I'm here to investigate an attack on a civilian mining station. Are you responsible for that attack? Noxvian seemed surprised by the direct question. Attack. The Divine Eternal granted those mortals the privilege of witnessing his glory. They were honored by his presence. They were terrorized and their station was damaged. In human space, we call that piracy. You dare question the will of gods. I question anyone who has to use fear to get respect. The alien's composure cracked slightly. You will kneel before the Divine Eternal, or you will be destroyed. We don't kneel to anyone, Minho replied calmly. But we're willing to talk. If you want to establish relations with humanity, let's do it properly. Diplomacy, not threats. Noxvian's image flickered with what might have been confusion. Diplomacy, you are mortals. Gods do not negotiate with mortals. Then we have a problem, Minho said, because humans don't worship anyone they can't respect. The transmission cut off abruptly. On the Veltar vessel, Noxvian stared at the dark screen in bewilderment. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever responded like this. They usually begged for mercy or tried to offer tribute. Tactical report, Minho ordered. Their ship is maintaining position at 50,000 kilometers, Park reported. Weapons are powered, but not targeting us. They seem to be waiting for something. Probably waiting for us to panic, Dr. Choi suggested. Their entire strategy appears to be based on psychological intimidation. "Engineering report," Minho called. "All systems green, Captain," came the reply from Chief Engineer. "So Jinwoo, weapons charged, shields at full power. We're ready for whatever they throw at us." Minho studied the alien vessel on his screen. Beautiful, impressive, and probably very dangerous, but not invincible, not gods. Lieutenant Kim sent a message to Fleet Command. "Tell them we've made contact with a hostile alien force that claims divine authority. Tell them we're going to find out just how divine they really are." The first meeting between humanity and the Veltar was about to begin. One side expected worship and submission. The other side had never learned to bow in the vast emptiness of space. Two ships faced each other across the void. The gods were about to learn that humans had their own definition of divine power. The standoff lasted 6 hours. Two ships floated in the darkness, neither moving, both waiting. On the bridge of the UES Dauntless, Captain Lee Minho watched the alien vessel through the viewscreen. The Veltar ship pulsed with internal light. Like a living heart made of crystal, Captain Lieutenant Kim Tae-young announced, "We're receiving multiple hyperspace signatures." Large vessels approaching from the outer system, the main screen shifted to show the tactical display. Red dots appeared one after another as ships dropped out of hyperspace. 5 Veltar vessels, each one larger than the last. At the center came something that defied description. The Divine Ascendant emerged from hyperspace like a floating city. Towers of living crystal reached toward the stars. The ship was 15 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. It dwarfed every human vessel ever built. "My God," Dr. Choi Yuna whispered from her station. "The power requirements for that ship must be enormous." "All the better," Commander Park Hae-jin said grimly. "Bigger targets are easier to hit." The comm system crackled to life. High Veltar Zephthyn's image filled the screen. The Divine Ascendant. "Behold the seat of eternal power. Your pathetic resistance ends now." Behind Zephthyn, the bridge of his temple ship stretched away in magnificent splendor. Pillars of crystal supported a ceiling that showed the swirling galaxies above. Lesser Veltar knelt in worship around their supreme leader. "I am Zephthyn, the eternal divine. For 300 years, 100 species have knelt before this vessel. Your cities will burn with holy fire, unless you submit." Immediately, Minho stood up from his command chair. His voice was calm and steady. "This is Captain Lee Minho of the United Earthship Dauntless. You are in human space without permission. You have attacked our civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zephthyn laughed. The sound reverberated through both ships like breaking mountains. Weapons began to charge. Energy gathered along its crystalline hull like captured lightning. The smaller Veltar ships moved into formation around their flagship. Their combined firepower could have shattered planets. "Target the nearest colony world," Zephthyn commanded. "Let these humans watch their people burn." But Sub-Commander Noxvian hesitated. "My lord, our sensors detect massive energy signatures. Approaching, multiple human vessels are entering the system." Admiral Seogiwan's task force dropped out of hyperspace like avenging angels. The flagship U.S. Sovereign led the charge, followed by heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. "This is Admiral Seogiwan of the United Earth Fleet," came the transmission. "All Veltar vessels are ordered to stand down immediately. You are outnumbered and outgunned." Zephthyn's eyes blazed brighter. "Impossible. No mortal force can match." Divine power? The truth was different. The human fleet represented 3 centuries of military evolution. Their ships were smaller than the Veltar vessels, but faster, more maneuverable, and designed for actual combat rather than intimidation. Captain Yoon Do-yoon commanded the escort ship UES Resolute. His tactical officer reported, "Sir, we're detecting massive energy waste in the alien flagship. Most of their power is going to maintain their impressive appearance." "All ships, this is Admiral SEO," came the fleet-wide transmission. "Target their power distribution nodes. Let's see how divine they look with the lights off." The battle began when the Divine Ascendant fired first, was ready, all power to forward shields. Interception course. Maximum burn. The Dauntless threw itself between the energy beam and the colony world. The ship's shields flared brilliant white as they absorbed the divine fire. Warning alarms screamed across the bridge, but the shields held. "Shields down to 60%, reported the engineering officer. "But we're still here, Captain. Return fire." The Dauntless opened fire with everything. It had missiles streaked through space, followed by particle beams and kinetic rounds. The human weapons struck the Divine Ascendant's crystalline hull, and something unexpected happened. The crystal cracked dot on the Veltar flagship. Zefthon staggered as his ship shuddered under the impact. Cracks spiderwebbed across the bridge. Windows. His lesser followers looked up in terror and confusion. "Impossible," he whispered. "The Divine Ascendant is blessed by eternal power. Kinetic bombardment. Our crystal matrices cannot withstand sustained impact." The human fleet pressed their attack. Admiral SEO coordinated 12 ships with the precision of a master conductor. Each vessel knew its role and executed perfectly. Pilot Nasomin led a squadron of human fighters through the Veltar formation. Her small craft danced between the massive alien ships, striking at weapon mounts and sensor arrays. The Veltar point defenses were designed to stop large targets, not small, agile fighters. "This is Lightning Leader," she reported. "Their targeting systems can't track us. We're too fast and too small for their sensors." Dr. Choi worked frantically at her science station aboard the Dauntless. "Captain, I've found their weakness. Their power systems are designed for maximum visual impact, not efficiency. If we can overload their energy distribution network, their entire ship will shut down." "How do we do that?" "Sustained fire at the junction points where their energy conduits meet there, and there." She highlighted targets on the tactical display. Minho opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships concentrate fire on the target points Dr. Choi is transmitting. We're going to give these gods a lesson in mortal ingenuity." The human fleet focused their combined firepower on 3 critical points along the Divine Ascendant's hull. The crystalline structure began to glow white-hot under the sustained bombardment. Internal energy feedback cascaded through the ship's systems. On the Veltar bridge, control panels exploded in showers of crystal fragments. The magnificent ceiling cracked and began to fall. The eternal flames that had burned for centuries flickered and died. "My lord," Noxvian cried out, "we're losing power throughout the ship. The divine light is failing." Zephthan watched in horror as his perfect temple ship began to come apart around him. For 300 years, no enemy had ever penetrated the Divine Ascendant's defenses. For 300 years, his enemies had knelt before the ship's overwhelming presence. These humans were different. They didn't kneel, they didn't despair. They fought back with cold precision and ruthless efficiency. "All vessels concentrate fire on the human flagship," he commanded desperately. "Destroy them before they can do more damage." But it was too late. The human fleet had found the Veltar's weakness. The gods were not divine. They were mortals with very impressive technology. And impressive technology could be defeated by superior tactics and unwavering determination. The Divine Ascendant's lights flickered one final time before going dark. In the cold vacuum of space, the temple ship that had inspired terror across 100 worlds drifted powerless and broken. The gods were learning what it meant to be mortal. The Divine Ascendant drifted in space like a wounded giant. Emergency lighting flickered along its crystalline hull, while internal fires cast eerie shadows through its transparent walls. On the bridge, High Veltar Zefthon stood amid the wreckage. Of his divine throne room report, he demanded, his voice no longer carrying the thunder of gods. Sub-Commander Noxvian struggled with a damaged control console. "My lord, we have lost 60% of our power grid. Main weapons are offline. The divine light that has burned for 3 centuries is fading." Around them, Lesser Veltar worked frantically to restore their systems. But for the first time in their long lives, doubt crept into their movements. If their godship could be damaged, what did that make them? "This cannot be happening," Zephthan whispered. "We are eternal. We are divine. These humans are nothing but primitive mortals." "My lord," a young Veltar engineer spoke hesitantly, "perhaps these humans are not as primitive as we believed. Their weapons technology is remarkably advanced." Zefthon turned his 6 eyes on the engineer with fury. "You dare question the divine order? We have ruled for 300 years. 100 species kneel before us. But none of those species fought back like this, Noxvian said quietly. The words hung in the air like a dangerous truth no one wanted to acknowledge. On the bridge of the EU's Dauntless, Captain Lee Minho coordinated with Admiral Seo's fleet. The human vessels had formed a defensive perimeter around the colony worlds, while maintaining firing positions on the Veltar ships. "Damage report," Minho ordered. "Forward shields are down to 40%, Commander Park Hyjin reported. "Hull integrity is good. All weapon systems operational." Dr. Choi Yuna looked up from her analysis station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive internal explosions aboard the alien flagship. Their power distribution system is cascading failure throughout the ship. Are they going to explode?" "Not immediately, but their main reactor is becoming unstable. If they try to jump to hyperspace or fire their main weapons again, the energy feedback could destroy them." Lieutenant Kim Tae-young intercepted a transmission between the Veltar ships. "Captain, their communications are not encrypted. They're arguing among themselves. The younger crew members are questioning their leader's orders." This was something new. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Veltar had never faced an enemy that could damage their flagship. Their entire society was built on the belief that they were superior beings, blessed with divine power. Now that belief was cracking like their crystal hull. Admiral Seo's voice came over the fleet communication channel. "All ships maintain defensive positions. Captain Minho, your analysis of their technology was correct. They're impressive, but not invincible." "Copy that, Admiral. What are your orders?" "We wait. Let them make the next move." Sometimes the best victory is when your enemy defeats themselves. On the crippled Divine Ascendant, panic was spreading through the crew. Young Veltar, who had never known defeat, stared at their broken instruments in confusion. The eternal flames that lit their corridors flickered and died. The divine music that played constantly through their ship fell silent. Engineer Kilven approached Noxvian carefully. "Sub-Commander, the human weapons did not just damage our hull. They exposed fundamental flaws in our design. Our ships are built for appearance, not for actual combat." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that we have become soft. For 300 years, we have relied on fear and spectacle. We have forgotten how to actually fight." Noxvian looked around the damaged bridge. Everything Kilven said was true. The Divine Ascendant was a monument to their own arrogance. It was designed to inspire awe and terror, not to win battles against determined enemies. "My lord," he said to Zephon, "perhaps we should consider retreat. We can regroup and return with a proper battle fleet." Zephon's rage exploded across the bridge. "Retreat. Gods do not retreat from mortals. We will show these humans the true meaning of divine wrath." He activated the ship's emergency power systems. The Divine Ascendant's hull began to glow as energy was diverted from life support and environmental systems. The ship's remaining weapons charged for one final devastating attack. "Target their flagship," Zephon commanded. "We will destroy their admiral and break their spirit." But the human fleet was ready. Captain Yoon Do-yoon, aboard the UES Resolute, had been monitoring the Veltar ship's power levels. "Admiral, the alien flagship is charging weapons. Energy buildup indicates they're putting everything they have into one shot." "All ships evasive maneuvers," Admiral Seo ordered. "Captain Minho, can your ship take another hit like that?" Minho studied the tactical display. The Divine Ascendant was preparing to fire with its remaining power. If that beam hit any human ship directly, it would be destroyed. But the alien ship's damaged targeting systems were struggling to lock onto the faster human vessels. "Dr. Choi, what happens if they fire their main weapon in their current condition?" "The energy feedback will overload their entire power grid. They might survive it, but their ship will be completely disabled. Or they might not survive it at all." "That's also possible." Captain Minho made a decision that would haunt him for years to come. He opened a channel to the Divine Ascendant. "Zephon, this is Captain Minho. Your ship is critically damaged. If you fire that weapon, you will destroy yourself. Stand down, and we can discuss terms." The alien's response was immediate and filled with divine fury. "I am eternal. I am the voice of gods. I do not negotiate with insects." "Then you're going to die like one." The Divine Ascendant fired its final shot. A beam of pure energy lanced across space toward the UES Sovereign. But Admiral Seo had anticipated this. Her flagship rolled aside at the last second. The divine fire passed harmlessly through empty space. On the Veltar ship, the consequences were immediate and catastrophic. Energy feedback surged through every system. Control panels exploded. Crystal supports cracked and shattered. The beautiful temple ship that had terrorized 100 worlds began to tear itself apart from the inside. My Lord Noxvian cried out over the sound of breaking crystal. The ship is breaking up. We need to evacuate immediately. But Zephthon stood frozen in the center of his collapsing bridge. His 6 eyes stared at the tactical display showing his damaged fleet. For the first time in 3 centuries, he was facing his own mortality. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Gods cannot die." Young Engineer Kylvin grabbed an emergency communicator. "All ships, this is the Divine Ascendant. Our Lord is unable to command. I am ordering general retreat. All vessels withdraw immediately." "You cannot give that order," Zephthon roared. "I am the Eternal Divine." "You are a mortal being in a dying ship," Kylvin replied with sudden clarity, "and I choose to live." The remaining Veltar vessels began to power their hyperspace drives. One by one, they vanished into the void, abandoning their crippled flagship and their delusional leader. The Divine Ascendant drifted alone in space, its hull fracturing as internal explosions tore it apart. The age of false gods was ending, and the universe was about to learn that even the mightiest can fall when they believe their own lies. The Divine Ascendant died like a falling star. Internal explosions cascaded through its crystal hull as 3 centuries of accumulated power overloaded every system at once. The temple ship that had inspired terror across 100 worlds broke. Apart in brilliant flashes of light, Captain Lee Minho watched from the bridge of the UES, dauntless as debris scattered across space. Fragments of crystal that had once been divine pillars now tumbled lifeless through the void. The eternal flames that had burned since before his grandfather was born were finally extinguished. "Life pod detected," Lieutenant Kim Tae-young reported. "Single occupant, Veltar life signs. Tractor beam engaged," Commander Park Hae-jin confirmed. Bringing them aboard. In the escape pod, Sub-Commander Noxvian stared through the small viewport at the remains of his godship. Everything he had believed for his entire life was floating dead in space. The Eternal Divine had been neither eternal nor divine, just another mortal being who had refused to accept reality. Pod secured in Bay 2, Captain came the report from the docking crew. Admiral Seo's voice crackled over the communication system. "All ships, stand down from combat alert. Begin search and rescue operations for any additional survivors." Minho made his way to the docking bay where the alien survivor waited. The security team had their weapons ready, but somehow he doubted they would be needed. The being that emerged from the pod looked nothing like the imposing figures that had proclaimed divine authority just hours before. Noxvian was tall and thin, his crystalline skin dulled with exhaustion. His 6 eyes showed the hollow look of someone whose entire world had collapsed. When he spoke, his voice carried no trace of divine thunder. "I am Sub-Commander Noxvian of the Veltar fleet. I surrender myself to your custody. I'm Captain Lee." "Minho, are you injured?" "Physically? No, but my people are broken. Everything we believed was a lie." Dr. Choi Yuna stepped forward with her medical scanner. "Captain, his vital signs show extreme stress, but no physical damage. I think he's in shock." Minho gestured toward a nearby chair. "Sit down, Sub-Commander. We need to talk." Over the next hour, Noxvian told them everything. The Veltar Empire spanned 47 star systems and included over 100 subject species. For 3 centuries, they had ruled through fear and spectacle, never needing to actually fight because their enemies always surrendered immediately. "We convinced ourselves we were gods," Noxvian said quietly. "When you rule for so long without opposition, you begin to believe your own propaganda. We forgot that we were just another species with advanced technology." "What about your people now?" Minho asked. "The ones who fled when your ship was destroyed. They will return to our homeworlds in confusion and fear. Many of our younger generation have never known anything but absolute power. They do not know how to function without the divine hierarchy." Dr. Choi looked up from her datapad. "Sub-Commander, we're detecting massive communication traffic throughout your former empire. It appears your subject species are in revolt. Noxvian nodded sadly. They watched the divine ascendant die. If gods can be killed, then they were never really gods. Our empire will collapse within days, on distant worlds across the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire. The Veltar godship had been destroyed by a species called humans. Beings who had knelt in terror for centuries suddenly realized their oppressors were mortal. The planet Kepler-442c was the first to declare independence. The primitive humanoids who had worshipped the crystal ships for generations destroyed their temples and proclaimed their freedom. Within hours, similar uprisings began on dozens of worlds. Captain Yoon Do-yeon, aboard the UES Resolute, monitored the communications traffic. "Admiral, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Species we've never heard of are thanking us for liberating them." Admiral Seo studied the flood of transmissions on her command screen. "Captain Minho, your analysis was correct. They were never gods. They were just bullies with impressive technology." 3 days later, a small fleet of Veltar ships returned to human space. But these vessels showed no signs of aggression. Their weapons were powered down, and they transmitted continuously on all frequencies. Requesting permission to approach, the lead ship was commanded by Engineer Kylvan, the young Veltar, who had ordered the retreat. His first words to the human fleet carried no trace of divine authority. "Human ships, this is Kylvan of the Veltar Remnant Fleet. We come seeking asylum and offering our surrender. Our empire has collapsed. Many of our people are lost and confused. We ask for your protection." Minho found himself in the strange position of accepting the surrender of beings who had claimed to be gods. Just a week earlier, the young Veltar engineer looked tired and overwhelmed by responsibility he had never expected to carry. "What happened to your homeworlds?" Minho asked during their meeting aboard the Dauntless. "Chaos," Kylvan replied simply. "Our entire society was built on the belief that we were superior beings. When that belief shattered, everything fell apart. Some of our people went insane. Others simply gave up and stopped functioning. A few, like myself, decided to seek a new path." "What kind of path?" "One where we learn to live as equals rather than rulers. One where we earn respect through our actions rather than demand worship through fear." Dr. Choi had spent days analyzing Veltar technology with Noxvian's help. Her findings were remarkable, Captain. Their knowledge of energy manipulation and crystal engineering is centuries ahead of our own. If they're willing to share it freely rather than use it for oppression, we could advance human science by decades. 6 months later, the former Veltar Empire had been completely transformed. The human fleet worked with local resistance groups to establish new governments on the liberated worlds. Many species that had been oppressed for centuries were taking their first steps toward self-determination. Noxvian chose to remain with the human fleet as a cultural advisor. His knowledge of the former empire proved invaluable in helping establish peaceful transitions of power across dozens of worlds. "Do you regret the fall of your empire?" Minho asked him one day as they watched a newly liberated world celebrate its freedom. "No," Noxvian replied without hesitation. "We were never worthy of worship. True strength comes from protecting others, not ruling them. Your people taught us that Kylvan and his followers established a small colony on an uninhabited world near human space. They called it New Beginning and dedicated themselves to rebuilding Veltar society without the divine delusions that had corrupted their ancestors. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Claims of divinity were worthless without the character. To support them, true power came not from inspiring fear, but from earning trust. Not from demanding submission, but from offering protection. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, ensuring that no new tyrants would arise to claim the fallen throne of false gods. The age of divine oppression was over. The age of earned respect had begun. The humans had proven that even gods could fall when faced with beings who refused to kneel. In the end, the greatest victory was not the destruction of the divine ascendant, but the liberation of countless worlds from the chains of imposed worship. The universe was free, and it would remain so as long as there were those willing to stand up to bullies, no matter how divine they claimed to be.